Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking something genuinely fascinating. We're going to follow expats Megan and Ben through a pretty dynamic day in the life to uncover the hidden, unspoken rules of living in Japan. You know, moving to a new country isn't just about learning the language or, say, figuring out the currency. It's really about those tiny micro adjustments you have to make from the exact second you wake up all the way to the moment you hit the pillow. So, through their experiences, we're going to explore some highly unique social etiquettes and daily life rules that, honestly, might just surprise you. But before we begin our journey from morning to night, I want you to take a second and ask yourself, how quickly could you adapt to highly specific, everyday cultural routines? Because it's one thing to visit a place as a tourist for a week, right? But it's an entirely different ballgame when you actually plant your roots there. The rules we're about to explore, they aren't laws written in some official handbook. They are the rhythmic, everyday practices that dictate the actual flow of life in Japan. So keep that in mind as we walk through Megan and Ben's day. Starting right at home in the morning, our very first rule deals with a really surprising difference in basic home maintenance. Imagine you wake up, maybe you make some breakfast, and then you head over to wash the dishes. In a lot of Western countries, this is a completely thoughtless, automatic process. But in Japan, well, there is a very specific kitchen sink rule you absolutely have to follow immediately. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole need to adapt. See, in the US, garbage disposals are incredibly common. You just wash your scraps down the drain, flip a switch, and boom, you're done. But in Japan, garbage disposals are actually quite rare. Megan points out a very specific rule you have to learn right out of the gate. You must always use protection on your sink. And what she means by this is that you've got to install these little disposable nets right over your drain to catch all of your food scraps. If you don't do this, you're going to run into some serious plumbing issues very quickly. It's a small morning routine adjustment, sure, but a totally crucial one for everyday life that forces you to be much more conscious of your daily waste. All right, let's move on to the commute and see how this builds into an entirely new auditory and visual landscape at the bustling train station. You've cleaned up your breakfast, and now you're heading out into the city. Now, Japanese train stations are legendary for their efficiency, but they are also massive, incredibly bustling, and honestly, sometimes totally overwhelming spaces. Navigating them requires you to tune into a completely different set of senses. So the crucial point here is that the environmental cues all around you serve a really brilliant dual purpose. It's like a fascinating built-in navigation system. First off, you listen for the birds. Now, they aren't real birds, of course. It's actually an artificial sound playing over the station's speakers to help you audibly locate the exit. You combine that with the yellow tactile markers on the ground. These markers act as a navigational lifeline to help the visually impaired find their way around safely. But beyond that, they literally function as a practical escape route for absolutely anyone trying to find a way out when they're stuck in the absolute middle of a chaotic, packed rush hour. It is a perfect example of inclusive, highly functional urban design that genuinely helps everyone. Okay, moving on. As we grab a midday snack, we arrive at what Megan describes as the absolute most heartbreaking rule to learn. We are talking about the famous Japanese convenience stores, which are completely beloved worldwide for their amazing, high-quality food. But living there actually comes with a serious emotional warning label regarding what you choose to eat for lunch. Because it's all about capturing the pure joy of discovering amazing, limited edition convenience store collaborations. Take, for example, something affectionately dubbed the cheese pizza volcano. I mean, just the name alone sounds incredible, doesn't it? Japanese convenience stores are famous for rolling out these hyper-specific, mind-blowing seasonal items that absolutely everyone obsesses over. It's this incredibly fun, exciting part of the food culture there that continually keeps the daily routine feeling fresh. But, and this is a big but, here is the hard rule you simply have to learn. You must never fall in love with the food at a convenience store. The devastating reality of this culinary impermanence is that one day you're going to wake up and it just won't be there anymore. It absolutely doesn't matter how much you or everybody else in the entire country loves the cheese pizza volcano. When its limited run is over, it vanishes without a single trace. Poof, gone. It's basically a daily lesson in enjoying the present moment and, well, letting go of your favorite snacks. Finally, we end our day with some evening entertainment and a very strict cultural expectation inside the movie theater. So after a long day of sink nets, artificial bird sounds, and lost pizza volcanoes, you decide to unwind with a film. But the rules of daily life, they do not stop at the cinema doors. In fact, the end of the movie brings about one of the most distinct cultural contrasts of the entire day. When the movie ends, you are expected to sit completely in silence through the entire end credits.
Nobody gets up, nobody chats about the ending, you literally just sit there. As Megan notes, this practice highlights a fascinating cultural duality. On one hand, it's viewed as very respectful to the filmmakers and the people sitting around you, but on the other hand, to a newcomer who is used to immediately bolting for the exit the second the screen cuts to black, it can feel kind of excruciating. It forces you to completely shift your internal clock and your definition of public etiquette. It's teaching you patience in a space where you might normally just rush out.
So, as we wrap up this explainer on Japanese daily life, I want you to take a moment and consider your own habits. Which of these 4 daily life rules would you find the absolute hardest to adapt to? Would it be the morning maintenance of the kitchen sink nets? Navigating those massive train stations by listening for artificial birds? Protecting your heart from the fleeting existence of convenience store snacks? Or forcing yourself to sit in excruciating yet highly respectful silence through the long credits of a 2-hour movie? It really makes you think about how much our everyday environments completely shape our behaviors, doesn't it? Something to chew on the next time you go about your own daily routine.